Hello, the John Sitton Football Uncensored podcast with me, Joe Mealing, asking the questions. I always struggle with that, John.
Now you're getting better.
I'm getting better. Cheers, mate. Yeah, cheers. Thank you. You're too kind to me. The Euros, we're in. What we coming up to a week in, and every team has played, including England, obviously. I think this little podcast we should talk about just the Euros, England's game. Obviously, massive game for England tomorrow against Scotland. Yeah, it'd be good to get your thoughts on that and the first game. But maybe we should kick off, pardon the pun, with England's first game against Croatia, 1-0, Sterling goal. Calvin Phillips set him up. Interesting team selection from Southgate. Trippier left back. Yeah, no Grealish. What was your thoughts on the game?
Yeah, well, there are many wide and varied things to come out of it, Joe. Many wide and varied things. I was having a little bit of a thing with some West Ham supporters, and I don't even know where they was coming from because, I've never said things to just criticise, and I don't think it is a criticism. I've only ever said things to make what I think are valid coaching points and try and improve things where Declan Rice is concerned. I said, and actually I was proved right. I think his first four passes were either backwards or sideways to a centre back or a full back or a midfield player alongside him. And I said, I don't think he does enough going forward. I think I said it on I might have said it on a previous podcast, our one, or I got interviewed last Friday by by James Elder. They do the thing with what they call the Euro Bureau. Right. And unfortunately, it ain't been cut and edited. So the timing's not right. It's going to make me look a bit like after the event. But he said about teams to watch. I said Italy. Apart from the usual suspects, or the usual suspects of like maybe France, Belgium, Portugal, Spain. I said Italy would be my dark horses, and so it came to pass. But sticking to England, I could see what he's doing. I think he, in some respects, I like to think I can. I think he's looking to rest people, the likes of Grealish. He's managing this. Not shin splints, but he said something to do with stress. If it's a stress fracture, you can play with a stress fracture, but obviously he's going to need painkillers and ice packs, anti-inflammatories. Maguire we know about. All I said was with regards to Rice, and it was, I thought, heavily ironic in the respect that Phillips made the goal, and he was more of a driving force, more of a springboard for attacks, covered more grass. And Declan Rice, I just said that I would like to see Rice's head, get his head up, like to see his head come up and look for a pass forward, round the corner, the furthest pass forward, the front man, anything to be a springboard for an attack. I just think he's too safe. And they said, well, if you look at him for West Ham, he's been doing it all season, and he breaks forward and he runs the ball in and he drives. I said, well, why aren't he doing it for England? They said, well, so the counter to my counter is, well, maybe he's been asked to do that so that Phillips can just sit in there so that Phillips can do that. So, which I think in an ideal world, you should have both. So what you do is you take turns in going. You look at your partner. So obviously, if classic, for instance, last night, the Ramsey goal, right? So you look at your partner, and if someone's deep on the ball, and in this case it was Bell, and it happened 3 times, and he executed the finish once, you just look at your partner, give him the eye treatment, or you just say, I'm going. And you make the third man run. Exactly. Just to, and England need to do it more, even if it's just to, I'm getting ahead of myself, but even if it's just to break the lines. You understand? So you might make that run, and you might get a really disciplined Spaniard, or it's in my particular favourite instance, the Italians, which I'll come to, or the Germans. They might pick that run off. But what you've done, you've pushed the opposition back, and you've created a little space there, and cleared the space for somebody else. Yeah. So it might be a case of like in Bell's case, he's looked up and he's got beyond, and he's hit a fantastic ball right on Ramsey's chest. He's took it down, finished it on the half volley in the bottom left hand corner as we're looking at it. So all I'm saying is, with regards to Rice and Phillips, maybe take turns in terms of like driving forward with the ball, lending it in and following your pass. Because the second player, if you do that, Joe, right, what happens is as you punch it in and you go to support, right, you clear the space, and then what I do, I come under you.
Mm.
You understand?
Yeah.
And then I'm screening the centre backs if it gets rebounded on us.
Yeah.
And that's all I said. I'd like to see him take turns and do it more, because they're talking the kid up far too much. And for me, I think he does far too little at England level anyway. We know he's only a youngster, he's only a kid, and he's played at a level I could only ever have dreamed of. But
interesting point, that. Really interesting.
I'm thinking like a coach.
Yeah, because I guess it's a lot easier to sort of set up against a midfield like England's against Croatia, when you know that Rice is going to sit, and within the first 5 minutes, I guess you realise that Phillips has got a bit more of a license to get forward, so you can set up presumably a lot easier like that. Whereas if you have two that can do both, it's more dynamic, more fluid, and presumably much harder to defend against and harder to counteract, because you don't know which one's going to go and which one's going to sit. Would that be fair to say? Was it a bit more?
Yeah, very fair. Yeah. Also, my formation 5 diamond 1 is more fluid.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You get the rotation with the tip of the diamond with the forward.
Yeah.
So in this case, whether it's Kane or Calvert-Lewin, someone rotating, so he put Sterling up there, which actually led to the goal. As Kane comes short or Calvert-Lewin comes short, then the top of the diamond, the very tip of the diamond goes beyond, which Sterling did for the goal, right?
Yeah.
And then you've got support infield who can break inside to out or outside to in. You've got a screening midfield player. You've got the insurance of 3 centre backs. You've got your width from your wing backs. And then I can add etc., which ideally I would show you on a flip chart or on a training field. But that's what I think my things are. I thought, look, I'm going to be candid as I always am on these things that we do, right?
Well, it is a Football Uncensored, so yeah.
Well, I didn't want to spoil. I didn't want to be a killjoy. I didn't want to be seen as a misery guts. I didn't want to be seen as, oh, fuck me, he's carried on where he left off at Leyton Orient. I didn't want to extinguish the celebrations, the feel good factor, whatever expression you want to use. I thought we were adequate. I thought we were very professional. I thought there were a couple of really good performances, like Sterling, like Mings surprised me, because I'm not like a great fan of his. I thought he did well. I thought Calvin Phillips was the man of the match. So I thought there were like 2 or 3 really good performances within the framework of the side. There was a couple of times when people's pace got them out of self-inflicted trouble. So I won't name names, but you could probably work out who. I thought that it was not a particularly good Croatia side. I thought it was one of the worst Croatia sides we've seen in a while. I thought then on the upside, the plus side, it was a little bit of a poor level sort of revenge for the World Cup semi-final defeat. But at the same time, I thought we were just about professional, adequate, and sufficient enough to beat them. I think but then on the flip side, I think there's more to come.
Yeah, well, on that then. So obviously we've got a big game tomorrow against Scotland. Do you think he'll change the team and bring some fresh faces in? Do you think he's got a plan almost for the games? Obviously, the first 3 games he knows who he's playing. Do you think he's got a sort of set plan for each of those games or coming into the tournament, and this is the plan for Scotland type thing, or will he keep the same team?
Quite possibly, yeah. Quite possibly, he's got to be as flexible as you're asking the players to be.
Yeah.
I think him and his staff have got to be able to coach and organise different formations to counter the opposition. More importantly, pose problems and ask questions of the opposition. My personal opinion is that starting 11, we started really fast. We started really well. We couldn't really convert the possession into goals. We had one near miss where Foden's dropped his shoulder, cutting on his left, curled one at the base of the post. If that had gone in, it might have been a different game. So, like a bit of a cliche I'm pulling out there, but we might have gone on to get 2 or 3. What I will say is, what I mean by Croatia, I mean not being particularly good, and we made hard work of it. I thought they offered very little in terms of any sort of danger, posing any sort of problems.
Didn't create nothing, did they?
Didn't create anything. Weren't really very good going forward. reminded me of the old Orient side we had. Do you know what I mean? Even England. You know what I mean? They got so far, and then there was no cutting edge.
Yeah,
There was no. They got to around the penalty area, and then that's it. It fizzled out. And in certain instances, it was the same with England. We flattered to deceive. So played some good football. And then when you come up against a team like that who have got nothing to offer going forward, they're not giving a particularly good account of it themselves. We're like 3 years down the line, or a couple of years down the line from the semi-final defeat. So they're 3 years older. We've got 3 years more experience, or we've got fresh legs and youth and the exuberance of youth in the side. Then I thought we should have smashed them like maybe 2, 3 or 4. Well, and we didn't. We scraped through 1-0.
And not only are they 3 or 2 years older, whatever it is, but they're 3 years older. They're Mandzukic they've lost, who's one of the best centre forwards in Europe. So that's the focal point of their side gone, which is why obviously they're struggling. They've got sort of Perisic, who's their threat up front, but he's a winger really. I know he scored against England in 2018, but so that makes sense. But we've still got Kane, who's got more experience. I want to just quickly touch on Kane because I know you're sort of connected to him and you've been following his career. There was an interesting article in, I think it was the Sunday Times or maybe Sunday Telegraph, from Carragher, who analysed the game, and he thinks that, to coin your phrase, Harry Kane is a gnat's hair away from losing his place in the England side. He says he's turned into Teddy Sheringham, but he's not as effective as Teddy Sheringham was. Have you got any thoughts on that? I mean, I know it's early days. I mean, he didn't play particularly well. That's one game, but just an interesting thought because, do we consider that?
I thought he played like he had divers boots on. I thought he was a yard off the pace. Carragher can't question. I've been saying it for. I mean, he gets how many £1,000 a week as a pundit, and then he got welcomed back into the tent after his off-field misdemeanors. After these pundits they contradict themselves, or they really say something without knowing what's going on, which we can all speculate. At the end of the day, the pattern of play at Tottenham and the pattern of play with England might revolve around people going beyond him coming short, so that a midfield player or a defender can bounce it off him. You know what I mean? So it gets fed in and he makes it stick, sets it off, and then it's clipped in behind for Son for Spurs or England level. It might be a Mount, or it might be a Sterling, or it might be a Rashford, or it might, you understand? So we're not privy to that. We don't, unless we see them rehearsing patterns of play. What I will say to you is, I'll confirm the fact I thought he was a yard short. But it's funny, it ties in what you're saying about an article. It ties in with Shearer on Match of the Day, saying, they said, Lineker said, is there any minuses, do you think? And he said, well, I don't think Harry Kane was his normal self. He wasn't his effective self. Well, you can't just say that. If I was to say it, I'd qualify it, right?
Yeah.
What I would do, I say he ain't going to look his normal self. He wasn't his usual self, but he's not going to look his normal self, because Harry Kane wants little balls. When he's at the side here, he wants it punched into him, saying, get it out of his feet and explode a shot. He wants a little ball down the side of him in one of the channels either side of the penalty area, so he can explode a shot. Better than those two, he needs a good supply, a healthy supply, a very high number supply of crosses from both sides into the penalty area. And then I look at us and I'll think to myself, it was non-existent. So you can't criticise. He'd be the first one, Shearer, saying, well, how can you dig me out if I'm not, if they're in the dressing room, I'm not in any service. You understand? Yeah. And I think it don't matter whether it's, whoever, Calvert-Lewin or Kane, they need a supply. They need, or Rashford even, they need a supply. And a lot of it depends on the opposition as well. I thought Croatia sat, a lot of it was to do with our possession-based game, but I thought Croatia sat and defended deep. So what they're doing, they're denying the space in behind the little balls down the side, because like I said on a previous interview on here and on another podcast, it's about not just formation, it's about distances. It's a key element. Yeah. It's a key element, and it's about distances. So I thought we found it very difficult to break down a very average Croatia side, but I didn't want to spoil everybody's enjoyment. I'm just dealing from reality born of very bitter experience.
That's what we want to hear, John. I think it's a reasoned, experienced view. you know, and it's not like, you know, football's coming home and jumping on a bandwagon. You know what I mean? It's from the heart. That's what we want to hear, because hopefully that's what people tune in for. It's an honest assessment. You know, there's no spin, there's no bullshit, there's no, you know, sort of, you're not necessarily connected to winning a player. So a lot, I think it seems to me, a lot of the pundits tread on eggshells when it comes to criticism. And I think we want to hear honest assessments.
Yeah, I mean, they went overboard on trying to be positive. They talked it up. Who's it? Ferdinand Shearer, and who's the other one? Was it Fabregas for the England game, or Ian Wright? I think it might have been Ian Wright, Shearer, and Rio, and Lineker hosting it. I mean, they've got to talk it up. They've got a thing where, yeah, sure, for sure. The camp, the media, they've got it makes a welcome change to be not particularly the TV, but I think it's right that they try and stay positive, be positive, give out positive vibes. But I think, you know, from a managerial coaching point of view, I don't think he's an idiot, Southgate. I think like his inner thoughts might well tie in a little bit more closely with mine than people think.
Yeah. So just on the Scotland then, what was your assessment of their performance? Obviously lost 2-0. How do you think they'll fare against England tomorrow? How do you think they'll set up? Should England be wary of them, or is it a case of how many?
First of all, I don't know him personally. I've never met him. I've only looked at him from a distance. Probably one of the ingredients that I might have been missing. Steve Clarke, I think, very, very, I can see where he's coming from. I think he's very honest, very knowledgeable, and very likable. So it might have been one of the ingredients I'm missing, because it takes time to take to me. You understand? So it might have been one of the ingredients I was missing. People normally play fear because they love you, or because out of fear from you know, losing their place at a high-ranking football club. So a little bit of insight there. I looked at him.
It's better to be feared than loved, isn't it? What Machiavelli said.
Well, I think you can be both. I think you can be both. So all the secrets of success on Netflix, it's no fucking news to me when it meets in the middle and it's like tough love, because the best era I've had was with my youth team players, because I treated them like sons. You know what I mean? But you need to have that luck, that element of luck where they come through with you. You understand what I mean? Like happened with certain world-class coaches at one particular Spanish club. But anyway, sticking to specifics, I thought he was very, very honest in his assessment. He said, you know, it's a steep learning curve, but we're not here to learn, paraphrase. And I thought he was very naive. See, look, what happens is this, Joe, right? If you're playing for me, I'm obviously like, my adrenaline's going to go whoosh, and the blood's going to be pumping, and it's going to be going through my head. You know, and then when I get you in the dressing room, I go, can I just ask you something, Joe? What's that, boss? What's that, coach? What's that? Gaffer. What's that, Sits? I go, how many 35-yarders have you scored in your career?
Yeah.
Right. So the answer might be one.
Yeah.
Right.
None in my case, man.
Hold on. All right, well, none. But let's say one. Right, maybe two. I had a couple. So if you ask me as a thing who took free kicks or drove forward and exploded one in the top corner, it might be a couple, right? Well, that's as a centre back. Then I'd say to you, one in your whole career. Okay. How many 35-yarders you scored this season? You go, well, none. I go, well, what the fuck do you think you're doing trying to explode a 35-yard shot when you're being closed down by 2-3 players? And then obviously
on the right is free.
On the right is free because the fullbacks come down to close you down because he can see your head go down to do the shot. That's when disguise, as your head goes down, like I used to coach players, all this about head up, get your head up and have a look. You don't have to. You look out of the top of your head. I always used to coach youngsters, kids, look out of the top of your head. It saves time. So then what you do, as you see you're being closed down, centre back and full back, you go bang and you nudge it wide. Not only that, is a far, far better angle, right? Being wide, high and wide to put a good delivery into the penalty area. And maybe Scotland nick an header and make it 1-1. Instead of which it gets pinched, then you get a weldy. The geezer's like halfway line fucking chipped and curled it over the goalkeeper, who ends up looking like a fucking a salmon or a trout.
Spider-Man. Got caught up with Spider-Man in the net.
Yeah, in the net, yeah. It was like salmon fishing in Scotland. Result-wise.
Why was he so high, the keeper? That's got to have a stewards on that, and he's on the halfway line.
Yeah, another one. They're getting carried away, aren't they? I told you 25 years ago, I saw the session at Ivory, in the indoor facility, London Coaches Association, guest appearances once a month by different coaches. I used to go to watch and listen and learn or dismiss. I never got invited. If I'd have got invited, I probably would have done the same session as David O'Leary, who basically paraphrased Arsenal's defensive strategy that him and George tried to take to Leeds. But most certainly he was a successful part of Arsenal. But the one I remember watching was John Cartwright, and it was entitled The Goalkeeper, the Deeper Sweeper. So this geezer's took it to the nth degree. All this like, I'm an extra outfield player. Well, that's what happens when you think you're an extra outfield player and you forget to be a goalkeeper and you get fucking mugged. You get totally mugged and you get chipped from 45 yards. Do you know what I mean? Do your job first. Anything else is a bonus. Do your job first. Simple, right? But anyway, that's up to them. I'm not sweaty. I'm English. Do you know what I mean? I'm part of the bastard nation. So tomorrow, I think it will be two extremes. As is always the way, when they hear God Save the Queen, the hairs on the back of their neck will stand up. I'm not talking about the English. I'm talking about the Scottish. The hairs on the back of their neck will stand up. They'll start thinking of Bannockburn and all the fucking rest of it. And they'll find an extra 10% from somewhere because everybody gets motivated by the English national anthem when they play us, which I've put in my second book. And I'm telling you, I might make enemies. I might say a few wrong things. It might come across as xenophobic or jingoistic. In every other country, it's classed as patriotism. But I'm a firm believer in us being penalised for our... I weren't there, neither were you. So I don't know what it's got to do with me. But we've been penalised for our history and people use our national anthem as part of their motivation. So the Sweaties, they might nick a point, right? And listen, I love them. I've been up there. I had one of the best times of my life up there in the islands. And I went walking on the west coast and the islands of Scotland, and the hospitality and the people were top draw. You know why? Because they're like any provincial group. They're like Cockneys. Or any other provincial group. Sometimes we clash with others because they're a bit too thing. But Trappy or Larry. But I went up there and I had one of the best holidays over a Christmas period and experiences I've ever had. And then obviously we've got the common denominator of black cab driving brethren in places like Edinburgh and Glasgow who we reach out to each other and talk to each other on social media. So I love them, but then I get asked a question when I'm saying, like, come on the Scots, like when they're playing Czechoslovakia, come on the Welsh and all that. I say, well, would they cheer for us? Well, the answer is no. The answer is no. But I don't care.
We rise above it, don't we? We rise above it.
Well, this is it. We rise above it because I want all the British teams, all the United Kingdom teams to do well. I'm not that tribal and small-minded. That's what the authorities want.
It's petty, isn't it?
It ain't petty. It's what the authorities want. Divide and conquer, divide and rule. I was born in the British Isles. I was born in the UK, and I wanted to stay the British Isles. And I wanted to stay the UK. And I want every British team to do well in the European Cup. I want every British team to do well in the Europa League, and I want every representative national side within the UK to do well. But when it comes down to the crunch, Joe, right? I want England to win tomorrow, right? But at the end of the day, I think it'll be two extremes. I think they might nick a point. Right, because they might catch us on an off day, or the other extreme is, and obviously they raise the 10% when they hear "God Save the Queen," right? And you know, the other extreme, I think maybe 3-4-0. I've gone out there yesterday on Twitter. It could be a 3-4-0 Amrin.
Their defense look poor to me.
Don't be misled. I mean, organisation can paper over the cracks, but let me tell you something. I very much like the young right-sided centre-back, especially when the way he defended, they considered that he had a penalty given against him. He did absolutely nothing wrong whatsoever, and he actually reversed it in terms of when the geezer was trying to get his body in. When you're coaching a forward, as it's punched in, and they're about to take your first touch, you coach body in, right? Well, the geezer's got reaching behind him like this, and he got low touch tight as the ball's thing. You get in line with the ball so you don't get rolled. This is all happening like this. And then at the same time, as he's feeling for you, he's stepped back and he's give the guy nothing to feel. And he's actually done the Fosbury flop backwards, fell over and got the penalty. Well, it was never a penalty in a million years. Never a penalty in a million years. Never. Right? And then you've got one of the top 3 left backs in the world. probably their only world-class player. I think Billy Gilmore will be, but I think Robertson is world-class left back in the top three. So don't be fooled by that. But at the same time,
Yeah,
so
I talked about centre halves, but yeah, I know. I mean, Robertson's quality, yeah, and Tierney's 50-50, I reckon, touch and go. Who's another top quality player?
Yeah, what they could do, they could put one in front of the other. So
I think that's what they do usually.
Well, you ain't
Tierney
get
plays in front of him. Yeah,
you won't get any joy down that side. We've got to play up the middle. So the formation's got to be overloaded in the central. Remember what I said to you?
The tranches.
You don't have to coach 3/3 that way only. You could coach 3/3 that way as well. So we can or we got to go down our left, their right, which is where Grealish might come into it, or even Rashford.
Yeah.
And then we get the supply in. We've got to get the supply in. We must get the supply in. You know what I mean? And we might see a better Harry Kane. What people haven't taken into account, it doesn't matter who it is, Joe, as well, right? You've got to consider this with Harry, right? He's got all these off-field goings on as well.
Yeah. Yeah, he don't know what he's going to do next season, does he?
No, that's right.
Obviously, his agent's on his case all the time. Oh, there's this club, there's that club. How much do you want? Negotiations. Yeah, it's all obviously taking his mind off the task.
Well, between me, you, and our subscribers, I don't think he really deals with agents. He's representatives of his family. So, but they'll have their fingers on the pulse in terms of what's being offered, who's interested, who's making inquiries. I'm led to believe I'm being proved right. What I said to his dad, Pat, 6 years ago, 5-6 years ago. He'd only just turned down another Premier League club to stay at Spurs. He was 23, 24. I said, Spurs will implode. He will win nothing there. He's probably not getting paid his market worth, and Pochettino will leave. And that's on my newborn grandson. May God strike me dead. I said that to him at a family party, and he said, well, what do you think you should do? I said, well, either consider going abroad to one of the big guns. I'm talking Real Madrid. I said, or being a bit of a homeboy. I said, why don't you try one of my old gaffs, Chelsea? Well, they're one of the ones making inquiries. But now Levy is playing hardball with the negotiations. There's a shock. He's saying he don't want other people, which I make him right. I don't want other people's cast-offs. I want cash money, 150 million cash, according to speculation in the papers. Well, he's quite right, because they was talking about throwing in a couple of players, plus 60 million. Well, why would you accept two City players who City are there's probably like maybe 3 or 4 more drops in the lemon. They've squeezed all the juice out the lemon. You understand the analogy of they've had the best years out of that player. The speculation was Jesus and Sterling. I would suggest that them two plus 60 million is not enough. No. If Harry Kane went to City or Chelsea, he'd get 35 tap-ins a year.
Yeah, I mean, Chelsea, Champions League winners, and they haven't got a centre forward. So
I was told his dad to get him there 5-6 years ago. I told him that Pochettino would end up leaving. I told him that Spurs would implode. I told him that they've spunked $1 million from the Bell, the 85. Yeah. It was 100 million euros, which at the time with the exchange rate was about 85 million quid, 86 million quid. And I think they had Lamella might have been semi-decent, and the other one was Ericsson.
Yeah, just on that, did you watch that game?
Yeah, he won't play again.
Nah.
He won't play again. Yeah.
So glad he's all right, though. Bloody hell.
Yeah.
Just shocking, wasn't it? Absolutely shocking.
Yeah, but this listen, I said a thing about it. And again, I've had no respect whatsoever, no recognition whatsoever in the media, no recognition, no respect from my peers, nothing from football. One of my ex-managers reached out to me. I said, well, I needed your support 23, 24, 25 years ago. You're no fucking good to me now. Do you know what I mean? All this about you're right. You was right about this. You was right about that. I should have managed your career better. I should have helped you with your career more. One of the things I said, Joe, years ago, as soon as the 2 corrupt World Cups were put out, right, the second one being Qatar, was 2 things. One was their human rights record in terms of using cheap labour, and the number into the hundreds off the field of deaths. Never mind about a player going down with a dodgy ticker, hundreds and hundreds of deaths getting their stadia built, right? And just as, or more importantly, the welfare of footballers, the welfare of players, which is why they're going to totally shift the whole calendar and play it supposedly at a time when it's going to be much cooler.
A bit cooler, yeah.
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 This is what happens when you place too many demands on people. I mean, I'm up to here with the black cab trade now. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm a gnat's whisker away from turning it all in, and I've only just renewed my bill. You know, we're getting you know, slowly by stealth. We've been surrounded on all sides, and it's like death by 1,000 cuts. And it's fucking despicable. You couldn't make it up. The discrimination and prejudice against the black cab trade and the discrimination and prejudice against car drivers in London, nothing short of disgusting, despicable policy based on lies.
Yeah, almost. I think we should probably do another episode, another taxi talk on that, because it's come
Yeah,
to a
that'd
bit
be
of
good. Yeah,
important juncture. Just last on Euro 2020 then.
England have gone up the pecking order very quickly. I meant to say that. I just think I still think we might fall a bit short. But I had well, you know, when we talked, we said we went through a list of countries, and we had England about 7th or 8th.
Yeah.
I do happen to believe that as I've seen all the teams play, we've gone slightly up the pecking order.
Well, I was going to ask you. So you've seen all the teams play. What's your predictions now? Has it changed? You know, is France still the favourite? Is there another country? You obviously mentioned Italy before. Yeah, how do you think it's going to pan out?
Yeah, I'm glad. I said it without even knowing that they were unbeaten before going into the tournament off the back of like 27 games unbeaten. Yeah. And I think they're one away from matching the record of 30 unbeaten now, Italy. But I'm so pleased and highly delighted that I've been proved right. I think they'll fall short for the simple reason I saw things in their game last night where players got tangled up. And they were looking for certain movement around the box, and it didn't materialise. I think they haven't really played anybody of note, but what they've done is they've beat what's been put in front of them with 2-3-0s. I got a correct score last night. I said 3 or 4-0, a tenner on each. So when I was 2-0 up, I said I need at least one more to get the correct score. Nice. So that was nice. And then you got the situation where I think they possibly gave the ball away too cheaply on occasions. What I liked about them, and this is what I like to see from all England players, not just one or two. I saw a situation where I think it was in their first game, and the ball changed hands, right? So you've got all this pundit media bullshit where they talk about turnover, which is a fucking rugby turn, and I can't stand it. The ball changed hands. Turkey won possession. I'm sure it was Turkey, and it was 4v4. And then you saw like gut-busting recovery runs from Italian players, and all of a sudden 7v4 in Italy's favour. That's what you call like a well-drilled, totally committed, disciplined unit. I loved it, absolutely loved it. And then when you look at their culture, in terms of all the stuff that we get PC and woke and bullshitty about, they're not having it. You know, they're teaching kids to defend properly, and they're doing sessions with like under 9s defending from corners.
It's unbelievable, isn't it? Yeah,
unbelievable. You know, I just think like the short answer is I think they might just come up short. So I'm looking at.
Did you watch France Germany?
Yeah, I did. Yeah. See, the thing is with the Germans, right? So if we win our group, we play the second in that group, and it could be any one of the three: France, Portugal, or Germany. You know what I mean? So I don't fancy us against any of them. Seriously,
even Germany. I mean, I know, you know, they're not as good as they have been previously, but I still didn't think they were any mugs at all.
Exactly, and they always kept themselves in the game, Joe. Kept themselves in the game. You know what I mean? It's never over until that final whistle goes. They always, they've had a couple of spankings over the years. We've done them 5-1 fucking years ago, whatever. Even Esky scored, right? But like you look at it and you think to yourself, like, they never really get like annihilated.
No,
they never get hammered, and that's what I love about them. That's what I love. I've always said down the years, if you start copying bits and pieces. And I just said it's about having your own agenda. 1 minute we want to be like the French, then we want to be like the Italians, then we want to be like the Germans, then we want to be like the Spanish. You've got to have your own identity. You've got to have your own agenda. And the agenda is, it always boils down to the relationship between the players and what they're being coached. by the coaches.
Yeah, sort of DNA. You know what they've been coached from a kid, I guess.
Exactly. Yeah. And I've always maintained, I think, just like simple theory, the more complete the coach, the more complete the footballer.
Yeah.
That's what I think. And I just think down the years, the syllabus has been, which might be room for another discussion. I just think the syllabus always seems to have come up short. Do you know what I mean? And we get these different things.
And there's a lot more coaches, isn't there? A lot more coaches in Germany, Spain, and Italy than there are in the UK, in England, or you probably
pro rata. There are, yeah, pro rata. And over here, you're not going to get a job. It's all about generating revenue for the FA. At the end of it, it's like you could go out tomorrow and you can learn how to drive. But then at the end of it, you get a driving license. So what? Yeah, you might not be able to afford to buy a car. Your job might be so shit you can't afford to buy a car. Well, it's the same with coaching. Yeah. You might get the full coaching license, but there's nothing at the end of it in terms of getting a job. And then when you do get a job, there's every chance you'll have the piss taken at you, just so you can get a foot on the ladder, which means you won't get the properly hourly rate. And I can think of one particular club who employed a local guy like me out of Hackney, and he was an England international, and he had a stellar career. And he had to work for nothing to show that he was up to snuff. Well, if you're not up to snuff, how'd you get your full badge? So then you press the rewind button again. You're back to square one where I'm at, which is like quality assurance. It's like I talk about on another podcast for somebody else. I was talking about BAME coaches and the thing behind Paul Elliott, and he's sitting there with his legs crossed. You know what I mean? Like it's Don Corleone, and we're guaranteed this and all this racial initiative. And we guarantee X amount of BAME coaches, X amount of women coaches. Well, what if they're no good? I can guarantee I can write you out a certificate. Well, you know what? If they got the quality assurance, can they put it across? Can they put a session on? Do they know what they're talking about? And if they know what they're talking about, the information that the FA's give them, you know what I mean? It's all based on wellness and health and safety and social awareness now.
No, again, maybe we should do another session on that one, because there's a lot to unpack on that one.
Positive discrimination, that's what it is.
Positive discrimination,
yeah. On the upside, what I've said is, instead of guaranteeing 1,100 right minimum, well, you might have 3,000 who are the best coaches in the country. Right, so that's the bottom line. You might have 3,000 BAME coaches who are the best coaches in the country. So don't start talking about like we're going to guarantee you this minimum, because they might not be good enough. So you can't just pass them because of their because of race. You know, but then on the flip side, there might be 3,000 coaches, which I'm sure there are quite a few hundred, who are better than anything employed elsewhere.
It's all about equal opportunities, but that goes throughout the whole game, I guess. That, you know, it's not just about getting a coaching badge, as you say. It's about getting a job, you know. And it seems to be it's not what you know, is who you know, and that's, to be honest, no different in football than it is in other sectors. It seems, you know.
I'll get that. Yeah.
It's the old school network, isn't it? You know, all right. He's all right. Get him in. Yeah. You know, and people from that background tend to be less involved in those kind of old school networks, so it's about breaking them up, I would imagine.
Well, it's like when I spent almost a decade staffing courses and monitors jobs came up. I've told this story before, and then I got a late shout for putting an application in, and then before I know it was a done deal, and they were giving it to teachers who'd never kicked a ball. They had their full badge and they'd staff coaches, but they'd never kicked a ball. And then you had the same people on courses saying, oh, fuck me, Sitz, you've taught me something now. What a blinding little part. I'd done a session within a session, and then I said, right, so we're doing a session, creating space. But then what I'd done is I just said, think about this as the next step, because I've stopped the game, froze it, so you get a freeze frame picture, and you need players to, like, when you whistle, to freeze, so that it hasn't rolled on and distorts what you're trying to say, and you can actually come in. So like their thing with organisation, which you set the thing up, organisation, observation, stop and coach, and then rehearse, then play on, right? Well, when I'm at the coaching thing, the number 3 in the list of criteria, I've said, there's a little by the way, think about this as the next step from this, which is like you've created space, and now he hasn't received the ball, right? And then I said, well, what you need to think about now is getting out of there to clear the space for somebody else.
Yeah.
And then there's a geezer on the line. He went, another coach, fuck me, Sits. He said, I really enjoyed the session, which was nice, good for me. I don't know, ego, if you like.
Good it was just good feedback, isn't it? It's just nice
good feedback. He said, you taught me something there.
Yeah.
Which is nice, you know what I mean?
Definitely.
But the point being, Joe, you know, you're getting these people leapfrog you. If there's a pecking order, if I've got to play like third class,
soul destroying, I'd imagine.
Well, it was back in the day. Now it's gone, isn't it? It's ancient history now. It's gone. Do you know what I mean? I'm just saying, for instance, these are some of the ingredients, some of the granules, as to what might be the reasons why people get disillusioned, drop out of the game, plot a different course, take their life down a different path, etc., etc. Because they're dismissed. Listen, the bottom line is, it's like anything. Who checks the checker?
Well, that's right. That's right.
You got all these self-appointed top Johnnies. Who checks the checker? Who oversees them? And then, but I'm more inclined to say, who the fuck are you? You've never laced a pair of boots on. You've got a blazer with a county tie, but other than that, who are you to be passing judgment on anything? And this all goes back to the power grab, really. Back in the day when I came through two. There was one. The first one, as we was on our way up, was Charles Hughes, and then the second book he wrote was the Winning Formula.
Well, maybe that's where people like Paul Elliott, maybe they are bringing a different viewpoint to it. Maybe they are slowly but surely changing it up, because it's a very old, antiquated institution that needs completely reforming. It sounds like, but
I disagree with you. I want it now. That's what I'm saying. I want it, and I want it now. I'll tell you why. Let me qualify it.
Well,
right?
In an ideal world, yeah.
Well, within you've got to go 3 to 5 year time slots, right? Whether it's at a football club or whether it's FA England level, you've got to have 3 to 5 year time slots. I want it, and I want it virtually now. I'll tell you why, because it's part of my book. Football's linked to politics. We know for sure that politicians, and it's never more prevalent than it is now, right, in London and in the country as a whole, with the shit show under these corrupt Tories, right? It's never more prevalent than now than it is in London under Khan on his second term, right, whereby MPs or mayors, they make decisions, right, that in years to come, they walk away from, and it doesn't affect them. Well, it's the same with football. It's the same with coaching. And it's turned full cycle now. Everyone's trying to be like Pep Guardiola. Everyone's trying to coach like Pep Guardiola and roll the ball out in their own six-yard box, right? Without knowing what Pep Guardiola can do, how he's coached. They've never coached it throughout their career. Maybe some of them have for a couple of seasons, building through the 3/3, right? And just as importantly, as a consequence of never having coached it, you haven't got the players to coach, right? Because it's got to be bedded in from when they're kids.
Yeah. I mean, I think, as I say, I think we should actually have a separate podcast on this, because there's so much stuff to talk about. And of
course there is. There's always something to talk about.
Yeah, but it's fascinating, and it's about, we said at the very, very beginning, I think, it's about trying to show the listeners, from your, experience and knowledge, to try and give potential solutions to systemic embedded problems within the game, the football game, but also the taxi trade, and it's not just let's all moan about what's going on. It's actually, you come up with solutions. I think that's the really interesting angle.
It doesn't matter if it's TV, Joe. It doesn't matter if it's TV. It doesn't matter if it's the radio. It doesn't matter who the pundit is, right? We can all give a list, as long as our arm, what the problems are and criticisms. But I've yet to hear, you might get it once in a blue moon pancake day, for every 12 problems, someone might come up with one solution. We can all espouse and articulate the problems, but it's about coming up with the solutions, and no one does.
That's right, and that's the difference in a commentator and an analyst or a pundit.
Yeah, pundit. Yeah,
but commentator, that's just telling you what's going on. We know what's going on.
I include the pundits in that. I include the pundits. Well, the other one the other day. Oh yeah, and it's a great finish in the bottom left-hand corner. Yeah, well, I'm not. I'm not blind. I don't. You understand? I can see it. Some people who are, God forbid, some people who are, they might need to hear it, and they might need to think the goal described to them. But I don't need the goal described to me. What I need described to me is like the coaching points, what led to it, and how it was created, or what we can do to stop it. The coaching points needed to stop it if it's against us.
That's right. Definitely. All right, John. Let's leave it there.
All right, mate.
We'll
Thank you for the counselling. I've got it all off my chest now. I didn't hear the bit at the start, the clusterfuck of a morning I've had, and then on top of that, moaning about the thing, bits and pieces with it, made a cab trade. Yeah, it's like a counselling session. Someone should start paying you.
Yeah, I feel like I've had the hairdryer treatment off Fergie. Right. Like, subscribe, give us your feedback, and we'll be doing another one pretty quickly, maybe very beginning of next week, if not Sunday, but I might be hungover Sunday, so maybe let's do Monday, to go over the Scotland game and the weekend's fixtures. So
give us your prediction quickly. Come on.
What, England-Scotland?
Yeah, go on.
3-0 England.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, well, I don't want to embarrass the Scots. I don't. I think just get the game out of the way. But I think England will tear them to shreds, actually. But that's just based on the first two games that we've watched them. But go on, what's your prediction quickly?
Yeah, I fancy that 3-0.
Okay.
I actually, like I said, two extremes. I think it might be a draw if we're off par and off colour, and the Scots raise their game. So it could be a 1-1, or the other extreme 3-4-0. Yeah, I think if we're on blob and we expose them, I think we could shred them.
And it's at Wembley as well. Yes, that's got a bit of go on it. Head start already.
I'll be driving around with cages on my windows tomorrow. I'll be out in the cab, listening on the radio. There's already a few down in the kilts and all that carry on. Yeah.
Oh, right, okay.
You got to love them. I love them. I mean, when they come down, we always have a bit of banter in the cab. They're good as gold.
Yeah, I'm actually watching it in a pub in Balham tomorrow, and my brother-in-law's Scottish, so it's going to be interesting. He's going to be down there. So yeah.
If you need a cab, don't forget to ring me.
Yeah, I'll give you a tinkle, not a dinkle. All right, guys. Well, thanks for listening, and we'll reconvene next week. Cheers, John.
Cheers, guys. Thank you.
Cheers.